Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Patsa Podcast. I'm Vince. This is Dave filling in again for Travis this week. Welcome to the end of the season. Dave, how's it going, man?
It's going good, man. It's been a very happy end to the season for a change lately. So yeah, it's going great, man. Things are looking really, really up for Inter right now.
Definitely are hard to do a lot better than a domestic double. Uh, I guess we'll get right into the last game of the season that happened just yesterday, a 3-3 draw at Bologna. After that, we'll get into some season end celebration and recap. I know this is our Dave and I, this is our first appearance on the show since Inter clinched both the Scudetto and the Coppa
hmm
Italia, a historic domestic double, only the third time we've ever done this in team history.
And
Um,
Milan never has, which makes me even happier.
absolutely, yeah. So Milan, of course, have their own problems this weekend. They're fighting for Champions League survival. We'll see what ends up happening with that. I know Roma's right on their heels. Como's still trying to get a spot. There's a lot of intrigue going into this last match day here on uh,
Yeah.
the rest of this afternoon. So by the time this airs, we'll know how that all goes. But for now,
Yep.
back to Inter, back to our number one. Uh, Again, Bologna was the matchup this weekend. It's traditionally been one of our bogey teams in recent years, and
Yep.
the result yesterday kind of confirms that. Again, it was a 3-3 draw away. The lineup we fielded was a bit interesting. Dave, I'll ask you for your thoughts on that in just a sec. We had Josep Martinez in net. He's been getting a little more action as the season's come to a close, which I've been calling for this whole time. It was good to see him get some more
hmm
minutes. Stefan de Vrij, Jan Bisek, Carlos Augusto in the back line. Midfield, Zielinski, Barella, Sucic with Federico DeMarco and Andy Doof on the wings, and then the front line led by Lautaro and Pio Esposito. Dave, I thought it was a bit of an interesting lineup. I know Çalhanoğlu's not healthy. Some guys are potentially resting for the World Cup, but it's a very strange group of guys we haven't seen play together. What did you think when that came out?
I was really, 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 really surprised to see them line up the way it was. Especially with like Laturo has had a tough season with injuries, and he's about to go to the World Cup and then start his. I just don't see the point in risking him in that. Um, I don't see the point in that. I mean, I know Barella and DeMarco didn't have the World Cup, but like at this point, emotionally, what do they have to like? I just don't like the idea of starting guys who are emotionally checked out when you could give that opportunity to a Primavera kid who has been dreaming of it and will give everything. Like those are precious minutes that we don't have often to give to kids like that to get that experience without loaning them out. So I thought it was a little bit of a waste, at least in the first half, to not use at least a couple of them. Like you don't have to go full Prima kids, but like use like the fact that there were only four of them in the entire roster to me was a problem.
Yeah, I definitely would have liked to see some more call-ups. I know as the years gone on, we've seen a couple names here and there, Koki, Spinace, Kamate, guys like that, but it definitely seemed like even in the last game of the season, we were content to go with most of the usual starting group with a couple of the rotated backup players in. Lautaro, I'm assuming, played because he was hoping to maybe get a couple extra goals to stat pad a little on his what will presumably be another Capo Cannoniere title unless Mullen for Roma scores 4 goals in about an hour.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't I don't think he's gonna pull that one off, but let's hope not.
Not likely. I do think as far as players being mentally checked out, that's a valid concern. I know there was certainly some sloppiness yesterday from some guys, but to the credit of DeMarco, I don't think he was one of those guys. I think he showed that he was
Mhm.
very, very much still switched on, and I felt like that showed um, relatively early on. He scored the opening goal of the game with another beautiful free kick. I know he's turned into
Yep.
quite the good set piece taker for us, and that gave us an early lead, which unfortunately the team, perhaps because we were checked out, immediately Bologna was able to come down and score an equalizer. Then was able
Yeah,
to find another one. I believe the 2-1 was just before halftime. Am I right on that, Dave?
that is correct. Yep, it was just before half. Yep,
Yeah.
they were up 2-1 at half, and I mean both those goals. The first one was fluky. Like I don't know how DeVry accidentally backheels it right to Bernadeschi, but like there's not much you can do at that. Like he's finishing that. Like Joseph has no shot. Like that was 1-2, bang bang right to him in the net. Like you're done.
Yeah.
I didn't really fault him for the second goal either. The way that deflected, he was already going the other way, flat-footed. I don't know of any keeper that can change direction like that and go back the other direction and get to that ball, even though it was slow and it looked like people were like, why did, once you go the wrong direction, you're not getting back unless it's crazy slow. The third one, I mean, yeah, we'll get into that. Like the own goal there, I get what was Zelensky was doing. I think a lot of the issue with why it went in is the positioning of Augusto, who was supposed to be playing left center back, and for some reason was standing directly in front of Joseph Martinez, so he didn't even see the ball until it went right past Augusto, which is why he reacted so late and couldn't keep it out. If Augusto had been positioned better, that would probably not have been a goal, in my opinion. But that was
I
the only one
agree.
I thought that was like Summer or not Summer. Martinez could have done better, maybe. But again, his vision was blocked. Like you can't. That's one of like the things that drives a keeper crazy is when you have one of your guys blocking your vision. That like keepers will yell at you for that, and there's a reason because you can't do your job if you can't see the ball coming.
Yeah, I'd agree with all that. I think for allowing in 3 goals, I think by and large, Joseph Martinez wasn't really at fault for it. I know Travis might ask us what's the difference between that and Jan Sommer, and we could get into that argument all day. But I guess going into the game personally, I know with everything locked up and it being a completely meaningless game, I was expecting that we'd probably come out of this with something like a 2-2 draw, and at the halftime mark, it being 2-1. I felt like again that was a pretty likely result. I guess
Mm.
before we get into in depth in the second half, what were you looking for coming into this game? And by halftime, had your expectations changed at all?
I mean, I guess when I looked at the lineup, I was expecting us to at least draw, maybe win, because you're starting mostly our starting caliber players. I mean, DeVry doesn't start a ton, but the rest of them do. Augusto plays at left center back a lot. He had a tough game yesterday, frankly. I didn't think he looked that impressive there. Yeah, I was expecting a little better. I know mentally, like they're probably checked out because they've had this huge emotional letdown. But like you said, Demon was checked out, but I think that's partially just when he puts on that kit. I don't think he knows any other speed, but all out for it, which is that's something that I think is an underrated quality in players that play for Inter that we need more of, frankly, because we do have a lot of guys that check off, and that was certainly showing it in defense. There were a lot of just sloppy errors, and to get to your point of like what's the difference with Summer is those all three of those goals were fluky goals with weird bounces. Like maybe some keepers in the world could have stopped that first one from Bernie, but he ripped that into the bottom corner without even dribbling. He just it bounced to him and he shot it right in. Like Joseph came out and tried to get to it, but he couldn't. Second one, once you're flat footed, you're done. Like it just is what it is. That took a wicked bounce. It was going from bottom right corner and then ended up in bottom left corner off the bounce.
Yeah.
So
Came off Lataro's elbow. It was going to be hard to track that either way.
yeah, it was me and it hit. If I watched it again before this in preparation, it actually looked like it hit two different players. So it like ping ponged its way through the box and ended up in the net. So I wouldn't have faulted Summer for that one either. I think that's the point I'm trying to make here is I've been extremely critical of Summer with for good reason. Like he's been terrible, but the shots he's letting in are ones that are savable or like he parries it right into someone and they score. It's not like the defender backheels it to a guy who's wide open and uncovered and rips it into the net. That's a very different scenario. So I
I
thought
agree.
Joseph could have done better, but I still have been mostly impressed with what he's done. I think he's earned that spot next season, and I think financially it just makes no sense not to do that either.
Definitely. I think he's earned the right to stick around, probably get a shot at being the first keeper. Again, I wish we played him even more this season so we really truly had a sense of it. I know,
Agree.
we do we're it seems like kind of the plan right now is to go with him as the number one guy. Would have liked to see a bigger sample size. I think we missed some opportunities to do that, but from what we have seen, I do feel good. I just would have liked a little more reassurance this season going into the next season if he was going to be the guy. But saving
Agreed.
that
Yeah, there's
for a little
definitely
bit,
some question marks there. But
yeah. But saving that for a little bit in the show, switching back over to the game here. 3-1 after the Zelensky own goal. Didn't look very good, but for being checked out, there were some guys who were still switched on. I know Andy Doof,
yep,
Officer Doofy for all the scary movie fans out there. um,
we've
he
been calling him that all season as an inside joke. If people aren't aware, we've been calling him Doofy or Doofus all year.
Yeah, but he's made us eat a little bit of crow as the season's gone on,
Hmm.
as he's found a place in the squad, switching over to the wingback role sometimes as he's gotten more time to integrate. I know he pretty much generated the second goal. He took his man on and then shot off the
Yep,
post. For once, we got a lucky bounce, and it fell right to
yep,
Pio Esposito, who pounded it into the net, 3-2. And after that, Doof, the whole game, the whole second half, really, he looked like he was fighting like hell. He was trying to will us back into the game. I gotta give him his props. I think he was a pretty
yep,
deserving man of the match. And he ended up being our third goal scorer. We had some subs. Mkhitaryan came on for Barella. Luis Enrique came on for DeMarco. Bonnie for Lautaro. We brought in Koki for Sucic.
yep.
And late, we had our under 23 player Luka Topolovic come on for Stefan de Vrij. Topolovic at a late in the game, I want to say this was like the 85th minute or so.
Yeah, he'd only
Uh,
been on for 3 or 4 minutes when he did this.
barely been on the field. He makes a great pass up the field ahead of Andy Doof and the last defender. Doof outruns his man, is able to take the ball, and boom, finds the goal to make it 3-3 just before the 90-minute mark. So I think, in recent weeks, all season long, really, since we brought in Andy Doof late, there's been questions about how he's going to integrate in the squad, if he
Yep.
has a role here, if he's going to be intermaterial, if we're going to keep him next year, send him out on loan, whatever. I mean, it's there's a moment I can remember during the first Milan derby. I was at a watch party with the DC Interclub guys, and as we were watching late in the game, down 1-0, chasing the game, trying to find an equalizer,
Mhm.
I remember the camera panning down to the touchline to look at our incoming substitutions for one of the later sub packages in the game, and the bar just collectively yelled "Doof." we were we were taken aback, and we
That's about
thought,
right.
okay, this is over. This isn't happening. He ended up looking pretty good in that appearance. And as the season has gone on, I think he's found a little bit of a potential role here in his cameo appearances here and there. Um,
Yep.
and I think that's going to go into in a little bit. We'll talk about some players on the keeper sell list. But as far as yesterday's performance is concerned, Dave, give me your thoughts on Doof.
I mean, he was certainly the man of the match, and I don't think it was really all that close. If DiMarco hadn't done that glorious free kick, I don't think anyone else would really even be in the conversation. He was essentially a one-man wrecking crew on that right side, like taking on his man and beating them repeatedly, which is outside of Dumfries from time to time, that's not something that we see happen for Inter very often, where we dribble. Like I just remember him doing like the trademark Ronaldo, like I can't remember the name for it. I'm sorry, my brain is not working. Where he's just faking people out and then going right past them like they're not even there, which is exactly what we bought him for originally. That's what he has been known for, is dribbling and carrying the ball up the field. He's a guy that can do that, but he's also started to develop the ability to finish. Like he scored more goals this season than Taremi and Correa did last year. And he didn't start very many games. Like that's not a small feat when you're in your first season in Serie A at a new club in a new system and you're changing roles between the midfield and wingback repeatedly. We could talk later about what I think might be his best role, but Yeah, I was quite impressed with him other than on the defensive side of the ball, which makes
Definitely. I
sense.
know.
That's just not something he does. Like he's never been a box to box like defensive midfielder. That's just not. He's been more of an attacking one always.
Right. And we can see where he's going to fit with that going forward. But to have him on the wing, I wasn't sure what to think about that possibility at first. But with Dumfries once again missing large chunks of the year, I do think he offered us something pretty unique on that right side. Darmian, of course, also spent a lot of the season injured. I know he's historically been one of the guys that we deploy at that right wing back position, but
Yep.
he's not a dribbler. He can't take on his man. He doesn't have the speed of somebody like a Dumfries, a Redouf, and even Luis Enrique. We've seen when we try him on the right side, I don't want to say he's a bad player, but he's not a consequential player. It seems like he's a
Yeah.
body out there, but it doesn't seem like he generates any real offense. Whereas when he plays on the left, he just seems more comfortable over there. But I think
Seems more
Andy Dufil
comfortable, but yeah. Oh, finish your shot. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I think Andy Doof has been something of a, I don't want to say revelation, but I do think seeing him evolve into that role on the right wing back, maybe as like and knowing he can be a midfielder, maybe he can be what we missed with letting Zalewski go to Atalanta last offseason. I know that was something
Yep.
he could do, play on the wing, play in the midfield. Maybe that's something we can carry forward into next season. But next season can wait for a sec because I think we do need to take a moment to celebrate. The season over, 38 games in the books.
Yeah.
All competitions have played out, and we have won the domestic double. Dave, give me your thoughts on this season, man.
I mean, given the way the heartbreak of last season, how it ended, all the turmoil that we went through in the summer with it seeming like every player was unhappy and wanted out, like even Laturo, it's come out now, was considering leaving. Like if an offer had come last summer, he would have actually been open to it, which is new. That's never something he's said before. He's changed his mind since he met Kivu, but like it honestly it feels probably as good as the treble for me. Like I haven't had this good of a feeling about Inter since then because it wasn't something that I came into the season expecting, even though with our lineup and clearly we are the best team, like we are expected to do that. But like if you go back and look at everybody's predictions before the season, not that many people predicted us to win the title. There were many people, even like some famous, like the Italian football podcast, I think even said at one point that Kiva will be fired by December based on how we started. So, which I'm glad Inter is not a reactionary club like that. We tend to give our coaches more time before we fire them, not just like one bad stretch, which I'm really glad we did. I feel like this whole team, Kivu, everyone just grew into the season as we went. We just kept getting better. I feel like
Definitely.
most of our struggles were on the earlier side of the season when we weren't really understanding his changes, which everybody has been saying for a while. Like he came in and just rode Inzaghi and Conte's coattails. He didn't change anything, which I think is very untrue. He changed a lot more than I think people give him credit for in terms of a few things that have made a profound difference in how we play. And the first is that much higher line. We're like 8 yards further up the field on defense, which is part of the reason Acerbi and DeVry have struggled so much this year because they can't get back that extra 8 yards, especially Acerbi. But the main thing is we don't go from having a lead to sitting back anymore. We are who we are, and we're going to keep stepping on your throat. And I fully believe that is the only reason that we won both of these titles this year. That killer instinct that we never turned off is why we kept coming back. Like thinking back to last season, how many times we got behind and all of us were just like, this is over. Because we would never really come back. Like we would maybe rescue a draw, but thinking about like some of the games this season where we were down 2-0 at half, we would win 5-2. Like I don't see that happening last year. So I'm super excited for where this goes. I'm a little nervous to see what happens next year as we get into that. I know there's been some people that have sophomore slumps, especially as we start to change things, but like Kibu did the one thing that I think we all wanted more than anything last summer, which is to fix the players' heads.
Mhm. Definitely. I think there was a huge need to pick up the squad morale was in the toilet basically at this point last year. I know
Yep.
I something that I was talking to you guys about and some other friends was like, is this going to be a 28-3 moment where the team is just going to spiral after it? You know, for those of you
Yep.
who don't follow American football, of course, the Patriots came back in the Super Bowl 51, came back from a 28-3 deficit late in the third quarter against the Falcons, go on to win the game, win the Super Bowl. The Falcons really haven't ever been the same team since that point.
Yep.
So something like that, a game, a final scoreline that is going to get memed on for the rest of history. There were obviously going to be some big questions about how the squad was going to respond from that. And I wanted to go back to something you actually just said a minute ago, Dave. Where did you hear that report that Lautaro would have been open to an offer if it came his way? I hadn't heard that before.
I heard in the last week or two, it was actually in his words. He's the one that actually said it. I can find it for you, but it's something he said that like it was either him or his agent said that he was so like distraught and unhappy, like he would have been open to an offer if like Real Madrid had come for him last year. He's
I
not anymore. They've already said his agent has already said I'm not like they're gonna have to kick me out of Milan is literally what he said. Like I will stay here until they kick me out is his exact words.
Well, good because I hadn't heard that and I was a little scared when you brought that up. Um, but yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well. The squad was in a pretty rough place last year. I know the Club World Cup didn't really give the team any breathing room either. Lot to figure out. Even with the Club World Cup going on, we didn't know what the roster was going to look like next year. We still had players coming in the door. Luis Enrique had just got here. Bonnie came during the events of the World Cup. I don't think he played during it, but he was signed
That's
during it
correct. I
because
don't think
his
he did.
whole right, because his whole there was a saga between or in terms of how we got him in the door too.
Yep.
So there was a lot of uncertainty, a lot of question marks. Lotar obviously saying those who want to leave can leave. Um, Presumably, we thought at the time he was referring to Çalhanoğlu. Seems like in retrospect it might have been more Benjamin Pavard, who had a pretty
Yep.
abysmal campaign over in Marseille and is set to return to us from loan. Doesn't sound like Kivu wants to keep him though, so he's probably going to be leaving. But with all those
No, Kivu is the
questions,
reason he left. I actually have the story about that. The real reason he left is because um, his agent called management to complain that he didn't start in a game, and Kivu shipped him out like within a week.
it was the first Udinese game, I think, if I remember
I
right,
think so.
because
Yeah,
I
that
saw that
sounds
story
correct.
too.
That
Yeah,
on top of the paddle thing, he was just like, no, bye. And
yeah.
I'm glad. Like we don't need players like that.
Mhm.
Because he was at home playing paddle with like Milan players when he was supposedly too injured to be at the Club World Cup.
Right. I know he's also a player who struggled both of his last two campaigns with us. He missed some pretty substantial time with injury. I know when healthy, he was a solid contributor in the back line, but at a certain point, you got to be a team player, and I wasn't getting that from him from either the reports that come out or things that I've observed. So disappointing that that couldn't work out. I know, especially with how much defensive turnover we're going to have this offseason, but with all of those question marks, Christian Kivu obviously coached in our youth sector for a number of years, was a player with us once upon the time, winning the treble. Um, Coached 13 games at Parma, saved them from relegation last year, and comes in relatively untested at the highest level of coaching to inherit a fairly solid roster that had a lot of questions and was able to get the team back on course. I know looking at our group chat from last summer, I think the majority of us were all predicting either Milan or Napoli were going to be winning the Scudetto this season, and we were
Yep.
expecting we'd be in the mix for top three, but that there were going to be some best case scenario. We figured Kiwi was going to be working out some bugs that would hopefully get resolved by the end of the season, and that kind of is what happened. I know one of the things that
Hmm.
you talked about things that have got better as the year went on, getting used to a high line, but also I'm sure you remember early on, and Travis talked about this a bunch, our tendency to leak set piece goals, the new
Yep.
zone marking. However, it seemed like as the season went on, that became less and less of an issue, and we honestly haven't
Hmm.
talked about it in months. I don't know if have you observed anything specific with that? Is it that we switched schemes, adjusted schemes a little bit, or did we just get better at it, do you think?
We just got better at it. We didn't switch schemes. He's still doing the zonal thing. He's still doing his thing. It just took, it's the same thing with the high line. Like these guys have been used to playing the exact same way for like 5+ years now. So even though it seems like a minor tweak for them, it's not because they're so ingrained of where they're supposed to be on the field at any given moment in any situation, then that if you change that line, that all changes. Same with zonal marking. Before you just have one man to deal with. Now you have multiples, and in those initial sequences, like you may not choose the right guy because you're not sure what to do. So I think as over time, they just watched a lot of film and figured out where they're all supposed to be.
Gotcha. Well, it was good to watch the team grow into that kind of. I know there were certainly some early pains. I know obviously it was rough. The first
Yep.
Udinese game was a bit hard to watch, where our
Yep.
solution was throwing all four attackers on at once and hoping something would happen. The first three encounters against the our chief competition, Napoli, Milan, Juventus, all losses. The Juventus one
Yeah.
being especially frustrating considering we
Oh,
had
that was
that
bad.
game. We were we should have won that game. At least drew that game after coming back from
Yeah.
down 2-0. Wasted a few beautiful Çalhanoğlu goals in the process. So I know there's always been that criticism of Kivu all year long about, oh, he can't win the big games, and of course the early exit in the Champions League playoff too. But Glimt did not help. I know on paper
No.
that's a team on paper that's a team that we had no business losing to. I know even not just on paper, in reality we probably should not have. I know that that is a team
Yep.
that was able to beat Manchester City, that went to the Wanda and was able to beat Atletico. I do want to give them their flowers. I don't think they're some pushover slouch team of
Hmm.
scrubs, but you know, we also kind of were in the position anyway because again, we couldn't capitalize in some games in the Champions League in the group stages against some of our
Yep.
bigger opponents. I know we were able to beat Dortmund 2-0, but you know, that game again at the Wanda, we had a draw and we fell asleep in the last couple of minutes, let in a corner goal and lost the point. And that point could have kept us out of the playoff. We would have gone straight through, made it
Yep.
straight to the round 16, and who knows what had changed from there. I know everyone likes to key in on that Liverpool game, which frankly we looked terrible in that game too.
We
Obviously,
did.
there was the late dive from Florian Wirtz, and they were able to win a penalty and convert that.
Yeah.
Arsenal, we didn't look all that competitive that game, but I'm going to give us some grace there because Arsenal's about to play in the Champions League final in a couple weeks here. Um, I don't think there's too much shame in losing to one of the finalists. So
No,
I
and
know
I,
there
I mean,
were.
like one thing I will say about the Bodo thing, like I feel like that might have gone very differently. One, if their field wasn't absolute garbage, and two, if Laturo had not gone out hurt for months in that game. The
Dumfries
fact
too.
that
He
we
didn't have.
won a double without Laturo for like 2 months is in kind of insane when you think about it, how many injuries we had this season. Like, I know all the other Cubs complained about all the injuries they had, but it's not like Inter was playing like we were missing Dumfries most of the season. Laturo was out a bunch. Hakan was out a bunch. These were guys that if you lost one of them under Inzaghi, we were not that good.
Yeah.
And we still finished the season with more points than Milan has ever had. Ever.
And there's something you just said that I wanted to key in on too, as far as what happened when under Inzaghi, if we were to lose one, you know, especially Hakan or Lautaro, if we were to
Yep.
lose them, how tepid we looked as a team. And you can see that, you know, one of the things I've loved most about Kivu is his ability to trust other players on the roster. You know, Inzaghi, if he could get away with it, would have played his favorite 11 guys every 3 days for the entire season.
Which always
He
bit us in the ass at the end of the year when they were too tired to play.
exactly. He picked his favorites, and I know Zelensky even said something. I believe it was Zelensky who said something about that in an interview a few months ago. But Kivu's a little more willing to try and trust some of the other players, especially youth players. Again, we've talked about it. Pio Esposito probably doesn't stick around if not for Christian Kivu.
Yeah,
Um, the fact, Bonnie coming in, great young player. That's another, uh, that's some more impact, some more influence that Kivu had over the team there.
they had
And
17 goals combined in all competitions between the two of them, by the way.
which is light years
17.
ahead of the trio of Arnautovic, Taremi, and Correa last year. Two
Yeah.
youngsters were
Oh,
able to
yeah,
lap them. Like
it's nuts. They both had mid to high double digit goal and assist contributions throughout the season in all competitions. And both scored and assisted in the Champions League too. So it's not like they just showed up in Serie A. They were everywhere.
oh yeah, they came through. I know it was after the Arsenal game, the Gunners subreddit. There were a lot of them asking, who's this Esposito guy? Can we get him? Where did he come from? I know for a
Right.
20-year-old to be turning the heads of one of the biggest clubs in Europe, that's on one of the biggest stages. That says quite something about him.
It
Um,
does. Yeah.
and there was to take it back to Kivu for a sec, though, going off of something you had said earlier. It's not just his ability to get results out of the players, to get the players' heads on straight. The fact that he got us reoriented after last season and that he's willing to trust the youth. It's this relentlessness that he has drilled into the squad where the guys don't seem content. They stay hungry. We
Yep.
see it, you know, coming down looking at the second half of the season as far as how the results went. Yes, we did lose another derby to Milan. However, I think I can give us a little bit of grace for that because we were missing both of our starting strikers. We had some
Yep.
injuries. Dumfries, I don't think, was fully 100% yet. Bastoni
Nope.
gets hurt during that game. So, okay, we'll look at next year for trying to get a derby. The Napoli game, again, that was a draw. Better. Could have won that, but better than the first time around. We did beat
Should have
Juventus.
won that. Yeah.
We should have if somebody had marked McTominay in the box. But
Right.
you look at some of these bigger games where might there still have been some struggles. Sure, last year under Inzaghi there were two though. We look at did we beat Napoli, Juventus, Milan last year under Inzaghi?
Not
Nope,
really.
we couldn't do that. I
No.
know everyone likes to dogpile on Kivu for that, but that's a problem that goes back to last year. But you look
Yeah.
at one of the other things that the Inzaghi teams would do is they would play to get a minimal win, and that would lead to teams getting back in the game,
Yep.
teams finding late equalizers, late winners, and we would lose points against these teams that we should have been beating. Whereas with Kivu, you see that generally against these teams that we're set to beat on paper, we kept the pedal to the metal and we came home with the result.
Hmm.
And while
Even
teams
if they
like
sat in a low block. Yeah.
That's right. And it's like you see, even if teams like Milan and Napoli are dropping points to these gimme teams on paper, we were relentless. We collected until the very end of the season. That little stretch in March where Fiorentina, Atalanta, we got a couple draws, and then these last couple weeks we did too. Other than that, we've been pretty ruthless in picking up points. Just total consistency. And I think that that's something that you look around the rest of the league. There have been other teams that have maybe peaked at other times relative to us, teams that are able to beat us. But, Napoli had some injuries, couldn't quite keep up with us because of that. Milan have started to fall off a little bit here. Same for Juventus. And in the midst of all that, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. We were able to come home with it. So I think that's another big point for Kivu, and I think we can see that from Inzaghi's side too. I know we were just talking about it yesterday, looking at the Saudi league.
Yep.
Al Hilal, of course, just finished the Saudi league in second place despite not losing a game all year.
Correct. He
I
lost a 7 point lead since December because he did the same thing he does at Enter, which we talked about earlier. The same 11 goes out there. And even when they don't have like other competitions and they have less matches, like all of that time on those legs without breaks, it adds up.
No. And
Like
of course, we
Ronaldo's team lost 4 times and they still beat him by 2 points because they dropped so many games with late goals, like we just talked about. Because instead of going for the kill, they sat back in a low block and would give up a goal at the end of the game and get a draw, which is what
and
cost
it's
us two Scudettos under him, too.
and it's also telling because Al Hilal is a team that's not hamstrung by an American ownership group that's trying to balance the books. Oak
Nope.
Tree, of course, is setting a pretty restrictive transfer market budget for us because they're trying to make us attractive for a potential future sale. We're trying to cut down on debt, whereas Al
Yep.
Hilal can spend however much money they want. They can bring in whatever players they want,
Yep.
and Inzaghi still isn't quite able to get the job done over there. And I don't want to sound ungrateful because I know Inzaghi brought us several trophies. He took us to 2 Champions League finals. He's responsible in large part for the Seconda Stella. But I do think, while as a tactician, I think he's brilliant. I do think as a man manager, I do think Kivu has him beat in that regard. I think
I
maybe
would say game
Kivu,
manager, too. Yeah.
yeah,
Man and game, I would say.
yeah, definitely. I know Kivu's a lot more flexible with the substitutions too, so that's another point in his favor. But yeah, we'll see what another year of Christian Kivu looks like. But taking all of that into account, taking into account the fact that we won a domestic double, the first one, the first Italian double in 8 years, and our first
Yep.
in 16, our third ever. Looking at that, taking into account the Champions League exit, everything else, Dave, would you be able to give a letter grade to Christian Kivu for the season?
I mean, I think most people would probably knock off more because of the Bodo thing than I'm going to. I mean, I'm going to give him an A minus. Like, there's not much that we did wrong this season. Like, yes, we had some struggles in the beginning where it looked like we weren't going to be that competitive and people were dogging us, but like, every time Kivu has run into something like that, he has figured out a way to overcome it in his 19 years with Inter. That's just what he has done. Like even thinking back to like the year the one the treble, people forget like his cool helmet. He broke his literal skull that year and came back like 6 weeks later to help them win a treble. Like I feel like that is something that is in his DNA. He just seems like he never quits. And I'm like as you were talking about that and like the man and game management thing, like I'm thinking in the back of my head of all these times this season where we were tied or behind at half and we came out and just destroyed teams in the second half. Like that the Roma game, both the Como games, like I know historically people aren't going to say those are big match, but those are two teams that are currently fighting for Champions League places today. So like those are big matchups to me. And those were ultimately what won us the Scudetto is all of those comebacks that we have not been able to do consistently for years now. And I think that's why I'm most excited going forward is because it no longer feels like if we have bad luck or we don't switch on right away that we're out of the game.
Definitely. I think I'd agree with that. I think depending on how much you weigh Champions League, I think there's an argument to be made for, do you want to say B plus, A minus? Personally, I'm with you.
Yeah,
I'm on the A minus side of the fence. If we only came home with one trophy, okay, maybe we have that discussion, maybe we knock him down a bit. But
right.
coming home with a domestic double, I know there is a lot of people out there who will say, oh, the competition was weaker this year, the state of Italian football, the state of the other teams. Well, you can't control the opposition, and you can only control what you can. And considering all of that,
Right.
the Champions League upsets happen. Again, it's a team that Bodo was a team that was able to get some results against some other solid teams from other leagues as well. Kivu's first year at Champions League, I'm gonna give him a pass this time. And I think for
Yep.
a first year domestic double, I think A minus is a very, very fair grade.
I would agree with that entirely. And like the other reason I'm not as hard with him about Bodo is there are some things that were out of his control that he didn't like. We even went to UEFA before that match and said, we don't want to play on this pitch because we are worried it's going to injure our players, and we lost our best player in that game. Like, there are some extenuating circumstances there, in my opinion. Like, yes, we could have finished better. Yeah, I mean, we could say that about probably every game we have. Like, we're not always the most clinical finishers. We just create a lot of chances now. So yeah, I think he gets a pass for that. It's his first year. There's a lot of like small little breaks that could have gone our way that changed the whole thing. Like, so I mean, yeah, I can't be hard on the guy for winning a domestic double, something that a lot of teams in Italy have never even done. Some of the most prestigious ones have never done it even one time. Like, even under Conte, when everybody's like, Conte's the best coach ever, he never made the Copa final and won a Scudetto in the same year. Neither did Inzaghi. They never even made the final. They didn't not only didn't win the double, they didn't even make the final if they won the Scudetto. I went back and checked. They never did both. So
Mhm.
I mean, that isn't. I don't care about the level of competition either personally, because like, do you think Juventus cares when they won 10 in a row? They can't control that the rest of the teams were crap. Like, I highly doubt that their fans gave a crap about the level of competition when they kept winning trophies. And I'm going to stay in that camp because that's something we can't control. It's not our fault that they're terrible at spending money on the transfer market. Like, Milan wasted more money in, I think, last summer than we've spent in like 2 or 3 years total.
Right. And you got to look at their market strategy too. I mean, I know Luka Modric, of course, was a flashy signing for Milan, but is that a long-term move? Absolutely not. He's already potentially going to be retiring here after this World Cup, and that's going to leave Milan with some more questions because they're going to have to replace him. They're still looking for an actual striker. There's tension with Allegri and Zlatan Ibrahimovic, whatever his role is over there now. So
Yeah.
one thing I'm thankful for is there's a lot of people who were critical of our market this past year, but for what it's worth, our front office and coaching seems to be somewhat harmonious in comparison to some of our competitors, which helps makes things easy. In addition to, of course, it seems like that the team actually get alongs with each other in the locker room. you know,
Yeah, like watching those celebration videos and like there's been a lot of videos coming out of like the players like surprising Laturo, like all sorts of these things that we have not seen before where you can tell like they love hanging out. Like even Turam, who we've been really hard on all season until he like flipped a switch after he finally got healthy is part of the issue. He had a nagging injury all season, but like watching him celebrate and all of the signs he brought out on the bus, just trolling Milan and like Lukaku and people over and over again, it's really hard not to start to like him
yeah, and
again.
even when he came in, he was somebody who was you could tell was immediately happy to be here. He was everybody's best friend, it seemed like. And for a good chunk of this season, he was a little more muted in how expressive he used to be, but in comparison to how expressive he used to be. But as he got healthy, he came back from that international break, you could tell the joy came back. And,
Yep,
thank goodness it did when it did. Lautaro being out again, having just come back for one game, going out again. Thuram comes back, switches it on. Him and Barella at the perfect time to carry us through to the end of the season. And I know that might be a good way. That might be a good way to segue into one of the next segments I wanted to do today. Is a little bit of some player recognition. I know we've given Kivu his flowers. Time to give some players their flowers too. Looking at the whole
yep,
season, I know there have been players who've peaked at various times. We've got a lot of there's a lot of accolades we could hand out here. Lautaro's looking like he's going to be the Capo Cannoniere again. DeMarco
yep.
set the single season assist record as a wingback. Thuram and Barella had a pretty red hot finish to the season. DeMarco carried for a while. Zielinski looked great. Dave, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Who is our best player of the season?
I mean, for me, it comes down to it's between two guys. It's either Laturo or DeMarco. It's hard to go against DeMarco because of the record-breaking campaign he just had. And not only that, like if you go back and watch some of his highlights of his assists, like just the pinpoint accuracy and the way he curves the ball into the box with that left foot it's a thing of beauty that like you don't see that often. Just some of the pinpoint passing is insane. Laturo, I bring into the conversation one because he's the capital. He's scoring less than he usually has, but it's really just how much this team needs him. Like we went through a real tough stretch where we were starting to worry because it kind of seemed like we were slipping after the Bodo stuff because we lost Laturo and we started to struggle to score. He comes back in that Roma match and all of a sudden the fire is back in the team. It's almost like he's the Kivu on the field who fires them up and keeps them in the game. And some of that is just watching his highlights, like how much he comes back into the midfield to help set things up. His hold up play, passing and one touch, it frees up so many of our opportunities, and he just does not get enough credit for it, frankly, because he doesn't get the assist or the goal off of it. But a lot of the times it starts with him. Like I remember one earlier this year where he like actually it was more recently, he like beat off two or three guys, turned around, side footed it around a corner to DeMarco, who then went up and just ripped it across to I think it was either Dumfries or Turam for a tap in. But none of that happens without all of that build up play from Laturo. So I know that's long winded, but I think I have to give it to DeMarco because like he broke Pablo Gomez's assist record, and Pablo Gomez played as a 10 for Atalanta, who scored all of the time. So like to have that many assists in a season is special. I don't know if we'll ever see it again, frankly.
I would agree with you. I think it's got to be Lautaro or DeMarco, and I think I might have to give DeMarco the slight nod for two reasons. Number one, I know that when Lautaro was down injured, DeMarco was one of the guys who had peaked around that time and was able
Yep.
to help generate some offense, was able to give us some assists, give us some goals. But then I know with
Yeah.
Çalhanoğlu missing some time, DeMarco has stepped up as quite a capable set piece taker. Corners, free kicks. He's had a couple free kicks this
Yeah.
season. Um, More than Çalhanoğlu, I believe, as far as free kick goals are concerned.
I
Um,
think you're correct about that, actually.
which, for somebody for a renowned free kick taker like Çalhanoğlu, it's hard to outdo him. But DeMarco's got his own technique, and I feel like that gives him another dimension. I feel like his defensive play leveled up, and we've always talked about how
Yeah.
it's kind of a weakness. But there were a couple times where I'd see he would either make a late clearance, he'd win the ball back. He came back from the tail end of last season. I know he, had a pretty rough last few games, but he came back rejuvenated, and I don't think he struggled enough last year that we can call him like a comeback player this year necessarily, but
Mhm.
I do think he showed a lot of fire. I think he showed grinta, and I think that the fact that he offers more than one dimension, like in open play, in set pieces, the fact that he's able to step up is almost a vice captain in a way when Lautaro's not there.
Yeah.
I do think that might give him a slight edge for this campaign, but I would also agree with you with what you said that Lautaro does a lot that doesn't show up on the score sheet, on the stat sheet.
Yep.
So I'd have to agree with you on that. I have two more questions. Not going to do a full award gauntlet. If we want to do that, I figure we should wait for Travis. But another question I have,
Sounds good.
and I've got a name for this. I'm curious if you would agree with me on it. Who would you say is our most improved player this season?
I mean, just given the injuries and how he played last year and how big of a disappointment he was, I'm gonna go with Zelensky
Okay.
because he really had a fantastic campaign. He came up big in a lot of moments when we needed a goal or we needed something. And last year, I don't know if it was injuries, what it was. Like I was really harsh on him last year and thought he was like a wasted signing. So for me personally, I think he redeemed himself a lot.
Mhm.
I can see a lot of other players making the grade. I mean, I'm trying to think who else I would add to that list. Most improved from last year. I guess I would add.
I do have one name actually,
Okay, let me hear your
if
name.
that's any case. So it might be. I don't know if you're going to agree with this right away because I know he already started some in some capacity, but I'm going to
Okay,
put forward Jan Bisek.
that was the other name I was thinking of actually.
Okay. Because
I
I know
swear
he,
that was the name in my head.
yeah, because he's started before. There's no secret. He's always been solid, but I feel like Kivu's system with a higher line and needing pacier center backs and seeing
Yep.
what he can do coming forward. I do think this season was really good for him, and it showed what he's capable of for us. I think that if we can get him to extend his contract, I think he can be the guy on that side of the field for years to come. Especially, stepping up with Pavard leaving on
Yep.
fairly bad terms, working out how to what we were doing. I know Akanji on the right was something we talked about for a while, but deploying him in the middle seemed to be a little bit better for us. But I think Bisek would be my guy for most improved. So it's
I,
interesting to hear that you would agree with that. Yeah.
yeah, I can't argue with that. I mean, like there were, well, because there's also like another layer to that of last year. There were a lot of mistakes that he made that led to penalties or goals that cost us a lot last year when he did play. So like, I think that's the other reason I'm going there is because he wasn't necessarily rated that highly going into the season, and then he became kind of like our rock at right center back when he was available and healthy, and Akanji was. That's who started, and there it showed why. He didn't make a lot of the same mistakes. I don't know if it was the switch to zonal marking on corners. I think that's part of it because a lot of it was he was getting beat on headers repeatedly and then the ball hitting his arm. That happened. I didn't even remember how many times last season, but
It
I
happened
don't
once this
know of.
season too. There was the
Yeah,
Supercopa game, the semifinal against
that's right.
Bologna, where he gave away a penalty that led to a whole penalty kick shootout. But it
That's
definitely didn't
right.
happen as much as it did last year. You're right. I know there was the first game of the season and the last game of the season. He gave away uh, handball penalties, but
I
he
can't
definitely
fault
seemed.
people for that with the rules these days, especially. But I feel like you're right. He's a very modern center back. He gets forward. He's very pacey. He's very tall. He's also really strong. Like the other thing he really excels at, in my opinion, is he's very good, especially this season, one on one. Like you didn't see people dribbling past him very much unless their pace got him past first. But I think that's part of the reason he's being linked with a lot of places. Like apparently Bayern have some interest in him, which he said is flattering, but what I've heard out of his camp is he has no intention of leaving at this point. So I think he wants to renew. I think he just wants a little more money, which, given his newfound importance in the team, I I can't blame him for negotiating his salary. It doesn't sound like he's saying no. It's more like they're negotiating, which is what I've been hearing about Augusto as well. That's another player I really don't want to lose, even though he had a rough game this weekend.
Yeah, I think Carlos Augusto is somebody that I would love to keep. He's kind of our left side Darmian, something like a Swiss Army knife that we can just plug in up and down that side. And I feel like that's not easily found again. I know,
Okay.
there's we'll see what ends up happening with our back line. We'll get into some market wishes and some keeper sell lightning round in a sec, but I think Carlos is an easy solution on the left side as opposed to trying to figure out, do we switch Luis Enrique to the left side? Do we keep him? But more on that in a minute. Last question I have for you here is, who do you feel was our best signing of the season?
Ooh, best signing of the season. It's hard. I mean, given the impact they had on our defense, it's going to be hard for me to say anybody but Akanji. Even though I think Sucic had a great season, Bonnie had a great season. Keo is not really a signing as much as we kept him, but just in terms of the impact week in, week out, I have to go Akanji.
I agree. I think it took some time. I know I put in the at least one of the group chats I'm in, either the one with us or the DC Inter Club guys. I proposed when we brought him in. Maybe the idea is to put him at center back, and to put Bisek over on the right. And for the first few weeks, it seemed like Kivu tried to force it as Acerbi in the middle, Akanji on the right before switching it around. But once he found his place in the middle, I feel like he was that guy all season long with a couple mistakes. I mean, there was the
Hmm.
I don't know what he was thinking in that second Bodo Glimt game, giving the ball away in the position that he did, but by and large, other than
Yeah.
that, he was pretty dependable, and I feel like he's the type of modern center back that I'm happy to bring on. I know we've automatically triggered his buy option, so he's going to be a part of the team next year, thankfully. And with
Yeah,
any
I'm
luck, we'll
excited. I
keep.
mean, I wanted him when Man City signed him. I don't know if you guys remember that, but there were a bunch of guys that were on expiring contracts a few years ago. That's how Man City got him for super cheap. I really wanted him and Evan Ndicka. Both of them were guys I thought would do very well in Serie A. So I'm excited we ended up signing him. I mean, a lot of people thought it was a punt just to get rid of Pavard, and maybe it was, but even if it was, it worked out fantastically because center back was a position we were struggling to find someone, and I feel like he really thrived in that role. I don't feel like he thrived in the right center back role. Our defense was the most impenetrable all season when it was Estoni on the left, Akanji in the middle, and Bissek on the right.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll throw one more question in here just because there was something you said that made me think of it. I know you had mentioned Sucic. If I were to put, okay, if we were to put or name a best young player, I know there might be a few more
Mm,
options here. I know we've got Pio, we've got Sucic, we've got Bonnie, we've got some options here. Who would you
it's
put as our
tough.
best young player?
I mean, Sucic had a big role here at the end of the season. He started out like super hot and then he kind of disappeared for a lot of the season until towards the end. I don't know if that's just like he like gained Kivu's trust or if it was because of injuries to Khan, which is also possible. Actually, I think it is because of injuries to Khan, but although that's not true because he and Hakan turned around a game themselves earlier this year.
That's
Um,
right, against Como.
so yeah, against Como, where the Hakan scored twice, or I can't remember which one scored twice, but Sucic had either 2 goals and an assist or a goal and 2 assists. I can't remember which, but so that's tough. I have to go PO though. I think Sucic could very well turn into a world class midfielder. Like he has every tool in his toolbox, really, especially some of the finishes he's made and some of the passing. But he'll like fix the need that we have had for so long in having backup strikers that can actually score and be depended on. Like last season, we had what 3 backup strikers, and they didn't even score as many goals as Pio scored by himself combined. So I got to
Yeah.
go with him. Like,
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you there. I think for year round, his ability to contribute to the attack in a way that three other attackers weren't able to last year, I do think it's got to be Pio. But Sucic, I think, is an honorable mention, and I do think he'll be a good candidate for the
yep,
most improved category next year. But if you're watching or
yeah, I think
listening
so
to
too.
the, yeah, but if you're watching or listening, we'd love to hear what who you think would who you guys would name for those players or any arguments. So put that in the comments. We're getting up on the hour mark here, Dave. So there was a bit of a game I wanted to play with you going into the transfer market.
Alrighty.
I know we've talked a few times about players that might be on their way out, players that might stay or might go. We're going to do a bit of a lightning round here. I'm going to give you a name, and you're going to have to let me know if you think we should keep them or if we should sell them.
Alrighty.
Okay. Henrik Mkhitaryan.
1 year, 50% wages, like seventh midfielder, keep.
Okay.
As long as he doesn't get in the way of development of like Stankovic and other guys, I would want to keep him. That's my only concern. I think having that experience might be really good in the locker room for a lot of those young midfielders.
I agree. If it's a reduced closer role in games, I could be okay with that.
Yep. I
But
just don't want him
nothing.
to start much at
No,
all unless it's like pure rotation, like a game that doesn't matter. I just don't think he's that great. And I don't want him to suck up minutes from guys that need time, like Sucic or hopefully Stankovic.
not to mention how many other names we might need to replace on a limited budget.
Right.
Speaking of other names, Francesco Acerbi,
Bye bye. You've been great, but it's time. I'm sorry. You cannot play in this system.
Stefan de Vrij.
That's tough. Given the potential turnover, I would honestly keep him. He was a pretty solid backup option, but that's going to be up to him. He's been here for 7 years, whether or not he wants to reduce wages, and he may want to continue starting. So I could see him moving on, but I think I would keep him just for like defensive depth.
Agreed. Matteo Darmian.
I don't think I just think he'd get in the way of Diu for Augusto or somebody else. I don't think we need him anymore.
Yeah, he's been like DeVry, Acerbi, Mkhitaryan. I think Travis was describing several players, several of our veterans as gentlemen of Inter over the last week, with a number of the last episode and a number of shorts, and I think that these guys have certainly all been gentlemen of Inter. They've all been great for
Yeah.
us, but yeah, I think I'm with you. I don't know if there's a place for Darmian in the squad next season, which as much as he's done,
Just,
thank you for everything, but yeah,
same. I just don't want him to block like Kamate coming up, or like some of these young guys that are exciting that under Kivu, I had this expectation that we would finally, especially with the U23 team, that we would finally start bringing youth products up, not just sell them. So I guess I'm still hopeful that that will happen.
hmm yeah, we'll get into some
And
of
I don't want the old guys getting in the way anymore, I guess, is where I'm at, unless they're there just for like backup and to teach.
agreed, and we'll get into some of these youth players in just a minute here. Jan Sommer.
It's time. It was time by the beginning. Like, I don't know. I think you and I knew like within a month or two of the beginning of the season that this was going to be like his swan song, like Honda's last season. But I think his was far worse than Handanovich's.
Would you even keep him as a backup?
No, no, I would
Yeah.
not. His save percentage is abysmal. He lets in at least 1 out of 3 shots that get on net, like without fail. He lets in a lot of shots that are savable. He's a short goalkeeper who has relied on his athleticism for his career, and he's lost the step. So like when you're I think he's like 5'10" or 5'11. When you're that height and you lose a step, you ain't getting to a lot of those balls in the corner because you're not 6'7" like Courtois. Like
Mhm.
it's time.
Yeah. Moving on. Luis Enrique.
Uh, he can go.
Yeah, he can go. Doof can do what he can do and doesn't even play the position.
Yep,
Doesn't technically
and
play the
he does
position.
it better.
He does. Not to mention, well, hopefully, he still have Dumfries.
Yeah,
And
God, that's a big one.
we can talk about
I'm
those
worried about
couple
that.
players in a sec. Uh, till then, Andy Doof. I'm assuming we're both
Keep.
on the keep train at this point. Yeah,
Yeah, it's hard not to. He's shown too much.
yeah.
And I
He's
got
just
confirmation. Actually, I read a quote today that, according to a journalist that I do trust, Kivu has stated that he will be here next year. We're not selling him.
nice. Hopefully, he can keep developing then.
Sorry
The
about my
last.
rat dog barking.
No, you're good. I honestly only heard one bark. Um, moving on to the last one before I get into some of these a little more do they stay, do they goes or youth players. Davide Fratesi.
Oh, he needs to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
we reduced his value so much keeping him this year. Like, I don't know. I think Kivu had an idea in his head of how he was going to use him, and then he started training with Fratesi and realized that he can't do what he thought he could do.
yeah, I think that's a pretty accurate assessment. I know Travis, the whole group chat will tell you guys how many Moneyball memes I've sent about Fratesi about how he scores clutch goals. That's what matters. But the complete lack of an end product this year kind of speaks for itself. I don't think he scored once all season. I don't
I
think he
don't believe
scored. I
so.
don't think he assisted. He barely played. He's responsible
He,
for some pretty great moments here or there over the past couple of years, especially in some big
mhm.
games. But like you said, we lost our chance to cash in on him, and I think it's he probably doesn't even want to stay around. I assume he wants to go somewhere and actually play and potentially get a better shot in the Italy team. But
Yeah, I mean, he's in his mid 20s. He can't sit here forever. He's already been here for I don't even know how many years, and he's like, other than some sub impacts, big goals, he's done almost nothing.
yeah. And so these next three questions are guys who are, for now, we assume staying, but we've talked here or there about them potentially leaving: Çalhanoğlu, Dumfries, and Thuram. What do you
Oh
think ends up
boy.
happening with those three guys? I know personally,
Oh man.
I keep saying every year I say one more year of Çalhanoğlu, one more year of Çalhanoğlu. I say next year he's getting hurt a lot more, he's getting older, we need to start finding a successor, but then every time we go and say something like that, he turns around and scores a spectacular goal that saves a game for us, whether it's against Juve
Yep.
or against Como or against Roma, whoever it is. The dude, he just produces magic every time. And I feel like at this point,
Yep.
if there comes a day where he would like to leave, I feel like he's earned the right to leave, but I don't think he's a player that we should try cashing in on at this point. I think he's somebody who,
Oh,
if he can go out, retire in the black and blue, I would love to have him till the end if we could. At this point,
mm,
I
I'd
don't
be
I
fine
don't
with
want to
that.
say
Like
yeah.
we're not going to get much money for him. Like we'd get what 20, 25 tops. That is like Galatasaray, the place he wants to go. Supposedly, he's never actually said this.
Mhm.
They keep saying it, but I just read an article today again that is saying that this is the summer he's going to move, but they're only going to offer like 10 to 12 million for him. There's no way Inter is ever saying yes to that. We can't replace a guy like that for that much. Like, there's no way. I understand the idea of like wanting to get return for a guy before they're valid, like, but the return we're probably going to get in the field in the locker room is a lot higher to me than the price we would get for him.
Agreed. He's just too important. Like his ability to come up with magical open play goals, but also his set piece ability. I know free kicks, we have DeMarco corners. DeMarco can do that too, but have we seen DeMarco or anyone else on the team take a penalty kick like Hakan can?
No, or a
That's
long range goal like that. Like when
yeah.
most of those guys take long range shots, Zelensky can do it sometimes, but when they take like that the one that the absolute belter he scored that sent Spillar the wrong way and bent weirdly in the air, like I don't know if it like I can think of a handful of players in the world that can hit that shot.
Yeah. He's just too he's too important. Like there are too many times where we need, okay, let's find a ranged goal to crack open the game, and time again, it's a Calhanoglu. So
Yep.
at this point, I think he stays, and I think yeah, when the day comes that he'd like to leave, he's earned that right. But for now, keep him as long as we can is where I am. I think Thuram stays at this point as
Yep.
well to keep it moving on to the next players.
Yep.
Um,
Agreed.
there were a couple
I
months
want
there
him to
where I
stay
think
too.
at this point, yeah, there were a couple months where I would have been okay with it. I would have been cagey about who we get to replace him, but yeah, which takes us to Dumfries. Do we think he stays?
I don't. I want him to, but I really don't. I mean, someone's gonna come. Like if he let me put a caveat to this. If he goes to the World Cup and balls out, there's no way someone's not coming for him for 25 million. Like he was injured a lot of the season and still had 5 goals and 2 assists as a wingback. And he didn't even play that many games that I'm aware. Like he was gone for what, like 4 or 5 months, I think.
It was a
It
while,
was a
like
long time.
yeah, at least three.
So I guess when he's on the field, he's great, but I guess that's part of the concern is like how many games are we going to get him for next season? He's 30 at this point. His contract is up not after this coming season, but the season after. So if he doesn't renew, I think we only have this year and next year for his release clause. And I don't know if anyone's paying 25 for it next year. The only way I would be okay with it, I guess, is if we can get like someone like Palestra, but
That,
he's not a guarantee either. Like he's still a prospect, and it's a lot of money.
mhm.
Um, I'm torn. I think if we can keep him, I would say keep him another year because 25 is not so much money that even if it's 15 next year, like if he does five, even with 5 goals, 2 assists, that's worth losing 10 million in the trade. I think personally, to have that spot locked down because when he does play, like he creates a lot of chances out of nowhere just with his physical strength and running ability. He could be
Mhm.
a lot better finisher for sure, but
Yeah,
I would love to keep him if we could.
definitely. I think after Dumfries, it's a fairly steep drop off at the right wing back position for us. I know Doof we have there technically now. Luis Enrique, if I guess we could keep him if Dumfries leaves, but that's we've seen how much of a
That's not
step
all.
down that is. It we were okay for most of the season with that, but it was a step down. Uh,
I was more impressed with Kamate in his showings than I was with Luis Enrique, if I'm being blunt. He showed
and
more in like one or two matches than Enrique did all season.
and that's also an option for next season. I know we have some last market. I'd say folks were fairly disappointed by. In retrospect, it aged a little better than we thought it would. Um,
I have a
but I
caveat. I
know,
think a lot of the reason that people were so mad, I'm sorry, I just wanted to say this because I think
yeah,
it's
yeah.
important. I think a lot of the reason people were so mad about last transfer window is because of like how we acted. I don't think it was so much the players that we signed. It was the let's be distracted by Lookman for a month, not sign anybody, and then like act like we're rushed to sign people at the end. I think that's why they were judged so harsh, is because they went from possibly getting Lookman and Kone to these guys that nobody has any idea who they are, if they're any good. I think that's where a lot
That's
of that criticism came from. Instead of people just try, like if that whole sequence had never happened and we just signed them in the beginning, it might have been viewed a little bit differently, but that's just
mhm.
me.
That's a good point. I think we definitely wasted a lot, too much time on Lookman, and I know there's talk that we missed out on Leone, who ended up going to Liverpool because of that too. This, of course, despite the
Yep.
fact that we needed center defenders. But moving on here, keeping it real brief. I know there's a few youth players we've talked about that could factor into plans for next year, and I know there are some players we've talked about in the market. Dave, give me a very brief wish list for this upcoming Mercato.
Oh boy, like if I could sign anybody I want and get rid of anybody I want.
Uh,
Oh,
let's keep it
that's
to let's keep it to names that we've talked about. No Mbappe's, no Messi's, no.
oh yeah, I'm not no, I'm talking realistic, like
Right, yeah,
actual targets that we've talked about. Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, I think to give Kivu what he wants and the flexibility that he's asked for that we didn't really get him last summer, which I feel like makes what he just did even more impressive because he didn't really get to do the tactics fully he wanted because we didn't give him the players he needed.
Hmm.
I don't know how Roma is asking for 50 now for Kone when his contract is expiring sooner and it's been another year and they need money. But I think he would be an ideal physical midfielder. I really want that kid to come and stay. I know that's his dad's jersey, but I think selling him for 40 million and pocketing 17 is would be one of the most short-sighted and stupid moves we have made in decades. I
Hmm.
know I'm putting a lot on a kid who hasn't played a lot, but one thing that he will always have that a lot of players that come to Inter may never have is what DeMarco has. It's a like that kid bleeds Inter. He grew up here. He wants to play here. That is his dream. Like
No.
I want players like that who are like Laturo who will give everything in their body every moment they're on the pitch. To me, that's more valuable than pocketing a little bit of money. Um, and I'm hesitant to think that even happens because that kid is literally like a son to Kivu.
Hmm.
He
Just like
coached
Euro.
him, like he grew up with him. Like the kid grew up having Kivu around him like his whole life. And then he coached him in youth too. So like I just don't see him signing off on that unless it guarantees us someone like Nico Paz, which there are like zero guarantees that that could ever be possible. I don't think it's possible personally. I don't think there's any way we are signing Nico Paz. I would love
Yeah.
it. Um, I just don't see it. I think it's more realistic to do something more like swapping Dumfries. I don't want to give away Dumfries, but if we can swap Dumfries for Curtis Jones, that gets us the creative midfielder. I know Liverpool guys don't rate him, but that's a lot of that. And what I've seen of him is the tactical setup that they play at Liverpool. He's a very good physical, fast midfielder. I think he would be really good in either a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-2-1. In the 4-3-3, I just don't think that is what he's good at. I think he would be a fine option instead of going for Paz. I just don't think that's realistic. If Dumfries then goes, I think Palestra is honestly the only realistic option from the tape that I've watched. That kid can ball. That doesn't mean he's going to be perfect here, but I mean, he's definitely one of the better prospects on tape that I've seen at right wing back in a long time. And I know people say that a lot, but there's a lot I've seen. Like, there's a reason that Murata has basically said this guy is our prime target. Um, Whether we can get him is a whole nother story because Atalanta loves to screw with us. So I know I'm not keeping this that brief, but if I could sign anybody, it would be Palestra. I think we need another right wing back either way. Even if he's the backup to Dumfries, then we at least have somebody that can play that role if Dumfries is hurt again next year. I
Mhm.
want to keep Stankovic as backup. I think he can grow into running that midfield. He can also play in a double pivot in a 3-4-2-1 with Kone, who I think is the other midfielder we should sign. Um,
Mhm.
I have a little bit of concern about him after the season he just had. He had a lot of injuries. Um, I'm a little worried about that, especially given the cost, but there's just not that many other good alternatives for what he does. And like, there's another Kone at Sassuolo that is another option that's similar. He's younger, less proven, would be cheaper. I'd be fine with that too. Um, then we need to sign a backup goalkeeper. I know they're talking about Providel. I don't think he will come here because he doesn't want to be a backup. He'll go to somewhere like Bologna or Fiorentina where he can be a starter.
I have a
Um,
solution for
I,
that actually.
yeah,
Um,
what's yours? I want to hear it.
well, I mean, we're already, I think we're both in agreement that we think our number one target should be Alexander Stankovic. And I agree with what you said
Hmm.
about bringing in a Manu Kone as well, a physical midfielder, maybe a Curtis Jones. Personally, I'm somebody who would like to bring in Luka Topalovic to the first team. Kamate could be a good show for that, maybe on a
Yep,
rotating basis, sharing minutes with the under 23.
I'm good with that.
But I think as our
I think
last
those guys
stop,
are ready.
yeah, I would agree. But I think to as our last free agent or potential youth prospect to talk about here before we wrap up, I think that the backup goalkeeper, I think if we can get him back, Filip Stankovic.
Oh yeah, I've been saying that in our group chat for like a while now. That kid
Yeah.
ball hauled this year at Venezia, and I mean ball. Like his save percentage was almost 80%. I think he had something like a dozen goals prevented over replacement, and his passing was like 85% or something. He can play the ball out of the back like better than most keepers that I've seen. And being that he's not super tall, he's more of like a summer style goalkeeper. I would
Hmm.
love that, but it sounds like management really wants someone with experience behind Joseph just in case he struggles. I don't really love that idea personally, depending on who it is. I really don't want to sign another over the hill goalkeeper who like comes in on a high salary and ends up sucking.
Hmm.
Um, it sounds like, from what I've read, the rumors would be we would sign someone like Kepa from Arsenal or Providel or can't remember the other one, which I mean are all fine. I really want Stankovic to get a chance. I know we have a 50% resale clause on him. My concern is if we don't buy him this summer, after he has a year in Serie A, if he plays like he did last year, his price is going to triple.
Yeah.
He's going to go
So if
from
we're gonna,
7 to 10 to like 30, probably,
yeah.
which
So if we're
I
gonna
think is
bring,
possible. Yeah, if we're going to bring him back, it needs to be now, in my
it's gonna
opinion,
be
like
now.
financially. But
Yeah.
I love your idea. Like that's been that was my dream all like for the last several months is we just keep Joseph and back him up with Philip because then we have two really, really good young prospects who are hungry and want to play here.
Yeah. I think, yeah, there'll be a lot to watch in the next couple of weeks here. And of course, we've got the World Cup in the meantime. I'm sure we'll have lots of interesting content to talk about that along with Travis. But that'll take us to the end of this week's show, I think. Once again, recapping 3-3 draw to close out the season against Bologna. We end the season as domestic double champions of Italy, Scudetto 21, and the Coppa Italia, the 10th one of those. So pretty historic season. We'll be getting the jersey, the new beautiful jersey here pretty shortly. But yeah, until
Yeah,
then,
I got to order one too.
yeah. Question is it Lautaro or DeMarco? That's a debate we'll be continuing to have, I think. But
That's where I don't know what to do either. If we bring back the like Alexander Stankovic, realistically, that's probably the kid I'm gonna get. I don't know why I'm so obsessed with this kid, but I just am.
yeah,
I
he's
think it's the way he plays and his attitude, and just like I feel like he could be the next DeMarco type signing for us, bringing him back.
he's one to watch for sure. I know I'm definitely with you. I hope we don't sell him because, he's another one who I think will be a great potential addition to the club for years to come. But yeah, uh, that remains to be seen. We'll see how that goes. But until next time, Dave, you have any thing you want to leave everyone with?
I guess there's one stat that surprised me that I guess I didn't even realize, which is that I didn't know Christian Kibu has been at Inter for 19 years between playing and coaching.
Then I think we can all call a gentleman of Inter at this point.
For real.
It's
Yeah, he's been here forever. The only time he left was for 13 games with Parma, and then we brought him right back.
yeah,
Like, I just think that's an interesting stat that like he's been Inter for that long, and like I just don't think that many people knew that or understood. Like, he also is the only coach. This is another. Sorry, I got one more stat for you. He's the only person in Inter history to win a treble as a player, a double as a coach of the Primavera, and a double as the coach of the senior team. Nobody else has ever done that.
historic. Yeah. I can't like I understand there were people who doubted him when we first got him, but got him back as a coach for the first team. But it's things like that, numbers like that speak for themselves, really. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I
it's a
like
lot
I
of work
want
and
people like
context.
that want to be here, and like that just I feel like that has driven our success this year. Is the people with that drive, like that was the biggest thing. Sorry, I know I'm rambling, but that was the biggest thing we complained about all last season is people putting on the shirt and not showing the passion that the shirt deserves.
Yeah, but I think we're lucky we got
So
a pretty good group of guys who have that now, and we got a pretty good guy at the helm who can hopefully steer these guys to a lot of success for years to come. And as far as success in the
hope
years to
so,
come
man.
in the coming weeks, we'll talk a little bit more in the next few shows about goals for next season, and we'll see what happens with the World Cup. But until then, Dave, thanks again
Cool.
as always. Some great insight and stats from you as always, man. Appreciate having you on. And for everyone
Happy to
watching at
be here,
home,
man.
listening at
It's always
home,
fun.
absolutely, man. Always happy to have you, brother. And then if for anyone watching at home, anyone listening at home, thanks for tuning in as always. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow, share, comment, all the things. We'd love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments. Campioni d'Italia. And until next time, Forza Inter.
Was it?